Love podcast, hate nonsense. I am back with GSN Gay Star News' Conor Clark.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And you had such a resounding reception on the last podcast.
I'm not responding to that.
And we're with Charlie Craggs.
Hey.
Who's new to the podcast. Basically, okay, so the reception for Conor was like a really nice moment for us because we discovered that we have like a gay audience, which we didn't realize we had, because like PoliticsJOE can be, I mean, it
has a gay audience more than you know.
It's two straight men and me.
Yeah.
And honestly, the men, I hate to compliment him. I hate it. But the men that came out of the woodwork to like comment being like, who is this? Like, it was like, they'd never seen a man before. Like, they were like, where's he been?
I got one saying, am I Sean? And I got another asking if it was Ollie. So
no, the live chat was like really pro you.
Oh, you're talking about on the election night?
Yeah, they were really pro you.
Well, I know you have a gay audience because my trans friend, hey Laura loves you. Like,
really?
Yeah, when I was living at my friend's house in between moving, she would like watch you all the time.
Love that.
Yeah.
I only hear the bad things. It's just nice to hear that someone thought it was all right, you know?
Well, I said to you when we before we start recording, whenever we do stuff like this and we see views and whatnot, I don't view it as real people. I just see it as a number on a page. I don't ever imagine that someone actually listens to
someone
this.
actually fancies you.
Well, that is hard to believe for me. For
No, it's
we
not.
only have half an hour, so we're not going to get into that right now. But there's a little friend of ours who sits at the coffee shop near here, and I saw him recently, and he was like, "I loved your episode with Davina," and I was like, "It's reached the masses," you know.
Yes.
He would though, wouldn't he?
Love him, such a diva.
He would love that one with Davina.
Yeah.
We are, well, despite that rather jovial entry into the podcast, we're actually talking about something that's pretty miserable.
Yeah.
God, that's a real like gear shift, isn't it?
Do you know what though? Like, I think that why I'm on here and why I'm doing loads of media stuff at the moment around this is because I'm like, I want to encourage trans people to not be miserable. Like, that's what they want. They like one of the tactics of these sorts of things. They want to like drive you down to the point where you have like no joy in your life, that you want to KILL yourself. Like, I'm here to be the trans person in the media who's like, hey, no, we're going to fight back and we're fine. And okay, they called us a man. Like, yeah, they call us men every day anyway. Like, who cares?
They say it about me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm being
Really?
transvestigated.
Oh God, Ava!
What? I am.
As
There's a
an ally,
subreddit.
Taught you that word.
There's a
as an ally
subreddit.
to the trans community, she is not disclosed whether she's trans or not. It's like the Lady Gaga interview where she's like, I may have a penis, so what?
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
But also, it's like...
Let's play a love game, diva.
The thing I find weird about it is that there's like people out there who are like so fixated on like your bits.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Well,
like,
usually you'd be put on a list for that, but in this case,
Literally.
but in this case, it becomes the law of the land by the Supreme Court.
The thing that you first said, I honestly thought that yesterday because I tweeted something on the line of like, you know, you are loved, or something like that with like the flag. And then like there was probably like 50 comments and they were all just like from like bots or like anons or whatever. They were just like shitty, your usual shite. Yeah. And then like the likes, because now only the user can see the likes. The people who were like interacting with it were like very senior MPs, like very senior stakeholders, like most of like my friends in and around media, people who like write some of the most high profile shows that everyone watches.
Totally.
And I was just like sitting there thinking like the joy in this community is that like there is one. Whereas like the people who are commenting on it with their bigotry and their misery are sitting at home on their computer. Whereas I'm looking at the likes coming in, oh, these are all my mates. And we're all in agreement, you know?
Well, most of us are really. Like, most people, most women specifically, don't have an issue with trans women. It's a very, very small minority, all of whom seem to collectively be outside of that courtroom. They were literally all there. It was so weird. And like, there's a very small voice of very privileged people who have very loud voices in the media because of their privilege. But most women don't have a problem with us because guess what? We've never given anyone a reason to have a problem with us because it's always been a hypothetical thing of like, well, men could dress up as women and say they're trans. It's like, well, first of all, your problem is with men, but second of all, it's hypothetical. You're saying it could happen.
Yeah.
It's not happened.
Yeah.
Any woman with a brain that isn't consumed with black rot, black mold, is going to know we're not an actual threat. We're just a hypothetical threat. And even that is a push.
And the sort of the examples of where there has been like an incident of extreme violence, they are, I mean, I could name probably 3 that have been sort of hyperbolized by the media to suggest that this is something that's happening across the board.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about that is that these are sexual assaulters, and as someone who is quite interested in sexual assault being curtailed, I would love to see that same energy to the number of men who commit this every single day. If we were actually concerned about the real danger, maybe we wouldn't have such a problem.
The thing I find insane is you have people like J.K. Rowling who have dedicated, I think, 6 years now of their lives to things like this, when if you had actually dedicated that time and money, by the way, it's not just time, it's the money.
She funded a lot of this Supreme
She did.
Court
and so, she's been a bankroller of 4 women in Scotland who fought the case. And I find it insane, because if I personally was a billionaire, I know the causes I care about.
Oh my God.
I'd be opening refuges, and like, why are you dedicating this money to steamrolling this and then posting a picture of you smoking, saying all my plans come together? Yeah. It really says a lot about these people versus the people that they're attacking, because all I've seen on my grid is people coming together and saying, here's resources to help each other, here's how we can meet up and be with each other. Then on the flip side, you've got a group of very rich, privileged, mostly white women who are just being like, we've taken rights away, got ya.
Because if you think about it as well, like, they're acting like it's a win for women, but really it's not. Women haven't won anything because they're not gaining anything. You're not going to see a drop in rape. You're not going to see a drop in workplace discrimination or period poverty or any issue that's affecting women. You're not going to see a drop in anything, first of all, as well, because the thing that they've outlawed, or trans women maybe being in women's spaces, there was never a real case of like there being any problem there. So you're not going to see a decrease in numbers of trans women attacking women in bathrooms, because we weren't doing that anyway. And like, even if you were able to say like one case of it happening, try and say another one, and then try and say another one after that, because like you said, if you can name like 3, good luck. But also like it reminds.
But I work in media, do you know what I mean? Like I'm around it all the time. Like Joe Public cannot,
And if you think it's similar to the sport thing in America, where you think he wrote this whole massive band, there's all this commotion and always sign it with his big signature, and then you think like that banned all of like 10 collegiate athletes in the whole of America, the United States of America. You think all of this commotion, all of this money, all of this time and then come back to J.K. Rowling that she could have spent on like all the issues that with the rise of things like Andrew Tate, with abortion, it could creep over here where abortion's made illegal again. You just think all the things you should be fighting for, and you're trying to ban trans women from doing a wee when we've never done anything wrong. Like it's just mad.
I feel like it's the last. Like, it's sort of like the last bastion of like discrimination that you can get away with. And I think that's why so many people latch onto it, because they're like, I need to get my fucking prejudices out somewhere. And I'd love to do it with the racism, but I can't do it. So, I could lose my job then, but
Yeah.
That's the... Well, it's take all, I get.
I know this is something that's been said a million times before, but what we're seeing, we've seen time and time again. None of this is new. And what you were just saying is the pattern that we've seen in the past is people do it, and when they're done, they move on to the next group. So these women who are bankrolling and supporting this baffle me, because when you erode the rights of one group, all you're doing is paving the way for the others to lose theirs, because equality is a really, really fine line we walk every single day. And people throw the word around all the time, equality, but it actually means something a lot simpler, which is just all of us being on the same level. But actually, when you have things like Roe v. Wade come along and things like this yesterday, all that does is now pave the way for when they decide, okay, gays are next, let's do that. And then they'll take away gay marriage and things like that. And so I just don't get what they think they're actually getting from it, or what they've won.
Especially when you can use the exact same argument to do it. Like it's not like a far-fetched idea. It's literally, they could go to the Supreme Court tomorrow and use the same logic and the same argument to be like, well, marriage means between a man and a woman. It does. That is legally what it means, and that's the Bible what it means. And it's like, well, if we're gonna go down to definitions, maybe we should ban gay marriage as well. Like maybe that's what will happen. Also, you think the same argument of like, first of all, I don't even like girls. So I'm like, why am I being treated like a sexual predator? But like, you just think like, no, sorry, but like, no, sorry, especially not girls with ugly turf haircuts. But point being as well, you think if we could use the same argument, then straight men could say, oh, well, I don't feel safe having gay men who actually, no offense, but like gay men actually do like men. Like, I'm not sexually into these women who are saying I'm into them, but you actually are, no offense. But like, they could be like, I don't feel safe because Conor loves cock and is in the bathroom with me at the urinal with my cock out. Like, they could literally say, ban gay men from men's toilets, make gay toilets and make straight toilets. It's the same argument.
Which is a recent argument as well. That argument, that argument has been made, in recent history. There are people who are alive today who will know that argument too well.
Babe, I'm one of them. I used to have that following me around in school all the time. I couldn't go in the boys' changing rooms. I used to have to go into the private toilet. I used to beg to do PE with the girls because it was that awful.
Because you're a predator.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. Me as an 11-year-old was facing that. You know,
same. I went to a boys' school and I never once in my 7 years at Gunner Street Boys Catholic School, I never once used the toilet because I was too scared. And it was a boys' school and I was a boy. But like,
oh my God.
And I was it was so ironic that on the day of my RE, like it was like the religious, I just spat everywhere. Religious A-level, I was like dying for the toilet before the exam and I walked all the way to the local train station to use the toilet. Because I was too scared. So, and this is what I was going to say as well. I said this earlier that on BBC News that like, these women who I know, sorry, I just had to get there, but like
I was just on BBC News by the way.
But these women are saying they feel unsafe, but I can assure you they're still going into the toilets willy-nilly. Willy-nilly is a bit ironic, but I very rarely use toilets in public, and like my whole transition, like I just don't, because I'm like, I just don't want to have the argument. I don't want to have anyone feeling unsafe around me, but I don't want to feel unsafe. I don't want to have to feel like I'm ready for it. I'm scared to speak in public, but never mind in toilets. So it's ironic that they're saying they feel unsafe, but really the people feeling the most unsafe, you never hear of stories in the news of, oh, there was a trans woman in a toilet and she did something. Like, you just don't hear that, but you'll hear more stories of, oh, I'm a butch lesbian and I was in the toilet and then this woman came up to me and said, are you really a woman? Or I'm chemo and a woman came up to me and said this. So they're the ones making people feel unsafe.
Oh my God, not the bitches with chemo. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Lord above.
Can I just say though, wouldn't it have been nice if the Supreme Court had heard from someone like you on that? Because they heard from a grand total of 0 trans people.
I don't think they'd care, to be honest. And also, like, not to... I mean, I did call them ugly old white men yesterday, but at the same time, like, they are just... It came down to them because they did say, like, don't see this as a victory for you guys over another community, but like they are just defined, like it's just definitions. But surely we've come to a place in society where we've evolved from fucking caveman Bible times where like I said with marriage, that's what marriage meant, that's what marriage means, but like we've evolved and we've accepted that gay people are a natural part of like biology, and like gay people can also fall in love, so let's just let them get married. Like, even if it's not the definition of marriage, we can, like, you know, the definition of a family, what does that mean? Do you know the definition of this? So they were just doing their job of defining, and I'm like, okay, fair dues, but like I just think it's just it just feels like there's a lot of talk about not much, and it's just going around in circles defining things, and like I just feel I'm bored. I have better things to do with my life.
I agree with you that I'm bored. I think that the fallout yesterday, I thought the original judgment, you're right, it did begin with, like, you know, he caveated it. And he was like, you know, this actually doesn't change the protections that the Equality Act offers. This is about this definition, X, Y, and Z, But it was the sort of the very tiresome social media fallout and the sort of like the victory that some people were claiming yesterday, and the sort of bad faith actors. I think this is sort of the entire problem with the issue, and it's what you were talking about at the beginning, where women didn't gain more rights yesterday. And that was so evident by the sort of people who were shouting this was a victory. Because those people do not care about women. They actually hate you. They hate you.
They don't hide it.
It feels like, I feel like it really unmasked, I think, the nature of a lot of these women, like JK, where like, she's, like you said, having her cigar and drinking, like, like took your rights away. And it's like, so that you've just proved this is what it was all about. You acted this whole time like it was about protecting women and girls, when really you've banned trans women because you're trying to protect women and girls from predatory men. Like, you've just proved.
But is she trying to do that? This is the thing. I don't buy personally that
any
of the. I know
you're the guys, but I just mean, like, she's that photo to me. She outed herself as, oh, you are just a villain.
Oh yeah, and she sat by the ocean on probably some 5-star resort or some private castle manor, whatever it is. You will never face, as a billionaire, disgraced, in my opinion, author, the same issues that a day-to-day woman would face, or trans women at that. And it's...
Well, no, but the thing I think that's frustrating about that is that she she did at one point in her life.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
so
very
that's
true.
the sort of like, it's the sort of mentality of basically getting to the top and then pulling up the ladder.
that's
And
so
I think
true.
that's
That's
what's
exactly it.
more sort
Yeah.
of like, I was going to say bamboozled. Bamboozled.
Bamboozled.
Bamboozling. Where did that come
Feeling a bit bamboozled.
That's what's more perplexing.
Yeah.
I think about all of it, especially, you know, she says she was a victim of domestic abuse. And, you know, you think about the number of women who are victims of domestic abuse. What gain? What gain have you got from this scenario now? Look, in my opinion, I think that we have evolved so much culturally, so much as a society, and the sort of people who work in these refuges, you will, it's up to their discretion now, essentially. And I do think that the sort of people who work there tend to be very socially inclusive.
Yeah.
And they would make a judgment of, I'm going to take you in. But it's the concern is that it's not written in law that you have to protect that person.
Well, it's already in the Equality Act that you can exclude trans women from some same-sex, single-sex spaces if it's under certain provisions, which is what I find confusing because that's not even been updated. And now you've got people like Kemi pushing for that to be changed. But before we even get to that,
oh, but you know,
that's a
I
whole
mean, God
separate-
love her. She just needs something to talk about.
God
like
loves a
honestly,
trier, do you know what I
really
mean?
does.
She
And do you
loves a
know
busy
what
news
though?
day.
You know, okay, I tell you what. Shall I read the tweet?
yeah, read the tweet.
Is
Let's
that
get
okay if I
into
read the
it.
tweet?
Yeah, of course.
Kemi Badenoch, saying trans women are women was never true in fact and now isn't true in law either. A victory for all of the women who faced personal abuse or lost their jobs for stating the obvious. Women are women and men are men. You cannot change your biological sex. The era of Keir Starmer telling us that some women have penises has come to the end. Hallelujah.
What a
I
loser.
read that and I accept. I already Park that I know that it's heinous. I feel sorry for her because I'm like, oh my God, you're so desperate to be part of the narrative.
Yeah,
like,
tragic.
as if this affects you. What? And the number of people, you know, the Conservatives is actually one of the most, I always call it the gayest party. It's got so many gay men in it, okay? It like really is. It really does.
All your fans. all the gays who love
Shut
you.
up.
No, I'm joking. As a gay icon.
But, you know, who are you speaking for? Because you're not speaking for them. And
No.
they pay their membership dues to you. So actually you had a duty, actually, as the leader, to be inclusive to them.
Yeah.
And if they want you to push ahead, not with this rhetoric, you're denying them that.
My thing as well is it's very black and white. This, like I said, all about definitions and stuff, which it's impossible to not be black and white. But where's the humanity? And I think, like, surely, like, when this is all like, oh, we won, like, you won what? You've pushed vulnerable trans. I'm not vulnerable trans. I'm a bad bitch. But I mean, like, when I look at like other, like, I was on the news yesterday on Channel 4 News, with Anne Lexa, who's like a young trans girl
I saw
actress
that.
from Sex Education. She's like the sweetest little thing. And I'm like, you as women have pushed this vulnerable little trans girl who couldn't, no offense, Axe, and couldn't fight to save her life into this men's toilet with these predatory men who you've been fighting about this whole time that they are predatory. Men are so predatory. Like, you've pushed vulnerable trans women into bathrooms with predatory men and you're celebrating. I think, like, where is the conscience? Where is the humanity? I just think what type of woman, what type of person celebrates that as a victory? And I also think it's key that they're not trying to put us into like gender neutral bathrooms or trans bathrooms. They're saying you get in the men's, you get in the men's where you belong. And like, you are talking about the danger you face, but then you're putting us in danger. I just feel, it feels really sad actually. I feel like it's really sad that there's no humanity for my community at all.
The thing that I also think is, when has there been a single time in history where someone's taken away a right and we now look back on it and are like, oh, that was great. And so that's also what I done. These people aren't stupid. They're very intelligent people. And they're playing this game with rights where somehow they think that they've changed the pattern and that in 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to look back and be like, do you know what? Yeah, we did need trans women out of that. That was the right thing. Who is going to look back and think that? I just don't buy it.
Yeah, on a different scale as well, it's always interesting. The people who want sort of like the laissez-faire style government, like they really want like a small state and hands off, they get really pernickety about issues like this. And it's like, to me, that's the sort of like emblematic of them just so desperate to find like some kind of group to punch down on. Like I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble.
Say it.
Oh,
Say it.
now we're interested.
I love it. Now I'm interested.
The sort of woman, the type of woman who is involved in sort of the gender critical movement I have not found particularly friendly as a younger woman. I have found that they actually are very interested in pulling the rope up.
Interesting.
And, you know, there have been some politicians I've met, well, very few actually, because genuinely, I'm not just saying this, most MPs you meet do not think this way.
Yeah.
Like they do not.
Most people don't think this way.
No, they don't. They don't.
Most of the country doesn't think this way.
No, I mean, look at the polling.
Yeah.
Like, they actually
It
don't.
just factually is, yeah.
What was I saying?
About the MPs and...
But the few that I have met have been like extraordinarily rude and just not very helpful, not very nice, and will actually try and push you out of the way for jobs. Yeah. And so to me, it's sort of like, it's almost like a panic. Do you know the kind of Jordan Peterson style, like women shouldn't be in the workplace because like men are running out of jobs? I feel like some of these women basically are like, well, we can't have any more like in our category because then we're not going to, you know, the pool is tightening and we're running out of, you know, job availability.
We're not going to win the Olympic gold if there's a big, strong trans woman.
Right. Yeah.
I've had, obviously I'm not a woman, but I've had the same experience in Parliament where I've met some of them. And I remember when I was at a different employer, I was basically chastised by some of these people for being in like LGBT media that wasn't friendly to them. And so I haven't experienced it in the same way as you. But
wasn't friendly to like GC or like to, what do you mean?
Well, when I was at Gay Times, basically, there were people who, when I was sort of making my way into Parliament and meeting MPs and whatnot for the first time, when I would encounter people who are gender critical, and this was without them knowing anything about whether or not I support trans people, the minute they see you're from like an outlet that doesn't 100% side with them on absolutely everything, you're blacklisted. And they try and put up every wall against you to stop them meeting MPs they're friends with, or if they are an MP, to stop you gaining access to certain things that could advance your career, which is kind of what you were just getting at. But yours is a much more, I would say, a sadder story, because ultimately, like, not to be like, oh, women should support women, but, you know, as Reese Witherspoon says, women's stories do matter.
I was trying to think of a really another funny, I was like, is it really that hard? I was like, what quote are you going to say?
Well,
like, it's hard. Like, it's hard. Yeah.
Both apply here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
No, go on.
No, I don't know. I'm spiraling. I'm just like, I think as well, like, I don't know what I think actually. I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know what I was going to say now.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I actually, when Conor and I were talking this morning about inviting you on the podcast today, like I feel this sort of enormous guilt about inviting you on because I feel like I really don't like inviting you on to just speak about this issue as if like your body is the only reason like that we're speaking to you or whatever. So like, I don't know if you want to like make this about politics at whole. Like, I just feel like you're a very eloquent speaker. And
honestly, I'm so grateful that we have people like you guys and PoliticsJOE and Gay Star News in our corner, because the reason that we've got to this stage where we have this going to the Supreme Court is because we've had such an onslaught against us in the media from right-wing media. And that's what I was going to say. I remember now, I did have something to say. It was to do with these MPs and to do with gender criticals and them not being very nice people generally. And it's like, well, all you have to do is look at the affiliations between them and right-wing kind of like Nazi stuff and like Britain First stuff. And I'm like, you are if you're like, also if you're on the same side as like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I'd like really... I'm like, are you that feminist? Are you that like, yeah, anyway. But
and when were you marching against like the student loan hike, or like when were you concerned about like how much young people are suffering under the cost of living crisis? Like when were you worried about any of these like material conditions that are actually affecting people's lives in a, you know, a demonstrable way? Instead, you're sort of going after this confected outrage. It's boring. Even
when we look at like the perfect example of that is with J.K. Rowling when the Olympics was on, and you had Khalif, who she's like, she wrote, I think, like 19 quotes or something. She was like, because it's all going to obviously court now, like 19 tweets about Khalif, but then there was not a single mention about the child rapist who was playing volleyball for the Netherlands or whoever it was. And you think,
and he was full on, like that was like he was like convicted.
That's a women's issue. Like you are hounding this woman who's actually a woman, and like apparently you just all you do is care about women, but like you're not actually talking about the actual women's issue, that there's a convicted child rapist.
No, but do you know what they were saying instead? They were saying, well, he served his time. You go,
I can't. I actually can't.
What do you mean?
You just couldn't write it.
You couldn't
Well,
write
Jake
it. Yeah.
She could, and she will write it under the pseudonym of Robert Galbraith. And what's his name? The conversion. Yeah, the fucking conversion therapist.
Banks,
Oh yeah,
Girl,
like,
I sent it to you. Did I see? I'm surprised I didn't send it to you. That I remember saying to Ava at the time, I was like, it took Azealia Banks to own J.K. Rowling unequivocally.
No, listen, like, you know, a stopped clock and all that. But like, honestly, like, I was reading it like, well.
And if Azealia is saying that, like, not being funny, but like, she's not got the best track record on trans. She's got. She blows
where the wind goes, babe.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah, no, but Azalea saw that and went, oh, hang on a minute, we've got a bit too far.
Yeah. Even I think that's too much.
Yeah.
What I will say is, I think as someone that is a gay man and I'm very comfortable in being a cisgendered man, I've never felt threatened by trans men in my spaces. And there's, by the way, why ever is any discussion about trans men?
Oh, that was left off the docket, wasn't it?
I feel like no one wants to mention that because by this definition, that then means that trans men are going into the women's spaces.
Good.
Montague on World at One actually put that question to one of the women for Scotland yesterday. And it actually took me aback because I was like surprised she asked the question. Yeah. She was like, well, she was like, under this legislation, trans men will now have to use women's bathrooms. And this representative from For Scotland was like, no, they won't. And I was like,
babe, they will.
No, they will.
Diva, they're women. Yeah. Like, you can't have it both ways. And I look forward to it. This is what I want. Like, for me now, this is like, yes, I felt sad when I woke up. And then I felt like spiteful. And I'm like, you know what? I can't wait for this to play out because, first of all, with trans men using their bathrooms, these big, like my best friend Kenny, you know, big, like all these every trans guy I know is like the hottest guy ever, apart from you, Conor.
Thank you.
Like they're big, beefy, hairy guys. They can have dicks. Like you just think, what on? And you like, so they're going to be in their bathroom, and I sure to hope there's like court cases of them like suing for like discrimination where they're chucked out of women, but they're women. By law, they're women, so you can't discriminate. And I hope they make lots of money. And I also, what was the other thing?
Make lots of money. They will. They will be able to like,
get your pussies out, boys. Like I pray to God that these trans men are taking up all the space. Like just you wanted this, and then I also hope that I want to start a campaign for trans women to like go after TERFs husbands. I just going. If you don't think I'm
Charlie,
gonna be,
you're such a menace. I can't.
I'm gonna be finding the area you live, and I'm gonna go to I'll find out when you're in Westfield, and I'll make sure I follow your husband into the toilet. And then I also what was the other thing?
Not the two hands as well. Like I mean, like come on.
Generous.
Like, it was. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We're hyperbolizing for the point.
Anyway,
yeah.
It's
two hands.
Well, I think they're going to end up suing against, like the people that won this are going to end up suing against it when they realise that trans men are going to be in their spaces.
They better take it back.
No, they can be like, wait. Oh, hang on. We wanted to stop that group. We didn't want that one too, but that's what you got. What do you want me to say? But I just think what I'm really intrigued by what happens next is because now this really moves back into the sphere of politics in terms of what MPs and the government chooses to do with the Equality Act. And also the other thing we've not spoken about is what this now means for the Gender Recognition Act of 2004, because that by law means if you have the certificate, you are legally recognized as the gender that you have transitioned to. So this technically yesterday doesn't change the law. It changed the reading of the Equality Act, but you can't change that one without now revisiting the Gender Recognition Act, which if they want to revisit, let's revisit some of the actual things that do need to change. But I just don't believe they're going to do that. There's still a 7-year wait. I believe it's 7 years to get a first appointment on the NHS for gender affirming care. But no one wants to address that. Let's instead define this.
Yeah, it's just like talking around the houses because it's what when you really ask like what are they fighting for? It's really like I don't think they even know what they're fighting for. Like you said with the trans men having to use the bathrooms, but also like it's gonna hurt their own, it's gonna hurt women, it's gonna hurt butch lesbian women. I've got friends who are already, before this has all happened, like for the last few years with this massive culture kind of war happening, get stopped in bathrooms, be like, why are you in here? We obviously, like I said, saw about the woman with chemo who went viral where she was stopped. We see like women from different cultures who don't fit the ideal kind of Western femininity, who are bigger or taller or have like what Western people perceive as manlier features, getting stopped. Like it's going to hurt a lot of women, and I just think if anything it's going to eat itself, and people are going to realize how stupid these people are. Like that's what I'm hoping. And
no, I think you're bang on. Like there was sort of like I remember a couple of years ago, possibly the Telegraph, but it might have been a radio station, sort of found this one shop owner who said that they just got rid of their toilet altogether because it was a lawsuit waiting to happen. And it was obviously like a total fabrication, like nothing had ever actually happened. However, we are now actually at a point where there will be, that there is a potential
precedence there
for
now.
that. Like you have actually paved the way for precedent. I also thought your point about self-ID is really, gender recognition certificates are really interesting because, again, listening to these 4 women talk about gender recognition certificates, when they're asked about, their biggest concern is self-ID, and they make this sort of extraordinarily fabricated argument that, like, men one day wake up and, sexual assaulters, and they claim that they're a woman, and then they, don't present, they just walk in and say, I'm a woman. Like, which
also, no evidence of that happening.
Exactly. No evidence of this happening. And then so it always comes back to this conversation, and there'll be sort of sometimes a well-meaning journalist will say, well, what about these gender recognition certificates? Perhaps there should be a fast-track system for those, and perhaps they should be more present. And they go, well, no, we don't want that either. And it goes, well, babe,
what do you want?
What do you want?
What do you want?
Yeah.
Also, can we just really state the obvious here? If a man wants to attack someone, I don't think they're going to get to a women's toilet door, look up, see the girls' sign, and be like, oh, wait, the Equality Act can't go in there.
They're attacking them in their own homes. They're killing them in their own homes. They don't need to go to a toilet.
Also, even if wherever they're doing it, they're ready to break the law to do it. I don't think they need to now be like, let me pretend to be a woman.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
More to the point, when it comes to the gender recognition certificates, which is what yesterday was a lot about, you can't just put on a dress and get a gender recognition certificate. It's like you got to be living in within 2 years. You have to have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. You need to have been seen by a panel. You need to wait months for that. You can't just buy a dress from Topshop and then go into the toilet next door and like just you to get the gender recognition certificate, which what this was all about banning yesterday. It's just, like you said, it's like they don't really know what they want. They're just trying to hurt us. And I think that's why I'm actually quite glad, because it feels like they've really unmasked. She's really unmasked herself as she just hates trans women. And just say you just don't like trans women. Like, I'd rather just don't put it behind the skies of protecting girls and women, because making girls and women have to like get their vaginas out to prove that they're a woman just because they're a butch lesbian, or they're going through chemo, or they're from a different culture that you're not reading them as female. Like, I don't think that's helping anyone. I just think it's really sad.
It's paving the way to sexual assault, because you're essentially you're going to have you do get these sort of women who will storm into a bathroom and they will honestly be like, get your bits out. This is what it's paving the way to.
I've seen videos online where they set, and this is in America, but it's going to happen here, but where they'll send security men. So like, this whole thing is about keeping men out of women's bathrooms, but then when there's a butch, there was like a black stud, like a stud is like a black lesbian, a butch lesbian. She was in there and she was like, I'm a woman, like, and she was like filming it. She was like, now you're trying to trap me out because you think I'm a man, and you've sent male security guards, 2 men security guards into a women's bathroom to check my private parts.
Who, by the way, aren't police, and they don't like, and all they have to do is like, they just get a little badge number. Like, those are not like
female body inspector, FBI.
No, but you know what I mean? Those aren't people who necessarily have like a DBS check, or like, they're not necessarily like,
They're some of the
doesn't mean anything.
If you've ever been down to Slug and Lettuce in Romford on a Friday night, and the sort of bouncers they have outside there. I actually went to a leaving do.
I was meant to go. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, but I've got an ongoing thing with them because they chucked me out, and like I'd only had half a pint. Like, honestly, like it was wild. But
need a separate podcast for that.
Oh no, I've already done it. Don't worry. Right to reply went in and everything. They offered me a float. I said no. Those sort of, those type of bouncers, if you're familiar with them, they are not your friends. Like they are not your friend. They're not the friends of women.
Friends.
Yeah, exactly.
They're definitely not trans women's friends either. Do you know what I mean?
Well, no, that they're not. But like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that they like anyone who falls under like.
I don't think like anyone, period.
Yeah, pretty much.
People,
like they really go after the young boys as well. Like they love throwing at a boy and like, getting into a little fight with them. I was going to say, do you know what word was about to come out of my mouth? I don't know what's going on with me. I was going to say fisticuff.
Fisticuff?
Wow.
What is that?
I don't know. I think it's because this is my second podcast in a row. I think I'm just like losing the run of myself.
Did you change outfits?
No, but you should have.
I'm not even engaging. I rise above. My fans will defend me in the comments.
Yeah, I was literally going to say, that's not what the comments are saying.
The Conor army are going to get you.
No, honestly, if you knew how rude he was to me on a daily basis.
None of it's on record.
Yeah.
Take him to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Apparently anything can happen there.
Yeah.
I was thinking to end on, it could be nice to like look to something more hopeful, as I say, as I put my hand on Charlie, which I was going to say something that I have found pleasant about the last like day is, I don't know if you felt this way, but the LGBT community is often quite divided on stuff. I've never seen this community more unified than in the last day and a half. Like genuinely, in my years being gay, in my years in LGBT media, this has been the single story that has brought us together more than ever.
Yeah.
So I at least have taken some hope.
Yeah. And do you know what I think that is I think for the last, however, 6 years, 7 years, trans people have been going crazy online. Please support us. They're coming for our rights. And I think some gay people like have probably thought, oh, all right, yeah, calm down. Like, it's not that deep. Like, yeah, it's just, it felt like this and that and this and that. But like now they're saying, oh no, they really are. Like they really took the trans to the Supreme Court and, you know, they could come for us next. And they probably will. Like I said, they only have to use the exact same logic and argument. So I think gay people will hopefully start to see that we weren't just being like hyperbolic and we were like right, and that they are coming for us. And we've seen it this last week in Hungary where they're banning not trans pride, all pride.
Yeah.
And, you know,
face
we
recognition,
see
everything. Yeah.
in America, there's bills being proposed to reverse gay marriage.
Yeah.
They come for the T, and then they start coming for, before they went to the G, they went to the drag queens, because if you think most drag queens are gay men,
They went for the drag queens.
They
They
really
tried
went hard,
really
yeah.
hard, didn't they?
a lot of the TERFs are going for the drag queens.
Oh,
So it's not just
yeah.
an American thing.
Yeah.
And if you think like that, so they're gonna, and I think it's the good thing is, it's come from a bad thing, but I think the good thing is that our community are starting to realize, oh, like they really are coming for all of us. And once you break one chain off of the one link off the chain, it's a lot easier to break the other links.
It is.
Yeah, if we're not all, you know.
Well, it's a watershed moment, because you think, I mean, like, again, like, sorry to keep bringing it about women, but like, you know, with Roe v. Wade, that was sort of like the beginning domino, right?
Definitely.
Of like, when one right is repealed, it's a domino effect. And so like, this is not I think that everyone needs to care deeply about this issue, because this is not a trans debate issue.
No.
This is an issue of any minority. This is gay men, this is women, this is going to be, you know, this will become about racism. I also just would like to say, as a hopeful point, like in the, you know, we talk a lot about sort of the age of loneliness, and like specifically like a lot of young men who feel very isolated, a lot of young women who feel very isolated. Like the thing about like the LGBT community is the sort of the spaces that you offer and the community that you have is actually honestly like the envy of most young people. The fact that like a young gay man who's like 18 can just like ride on up to Soho one night or go out in Manchester, and there's a community there, but where they can like fit in and they are welcomed. Straight culture doesn't have that.
No.
And I think that's something to take some joy in.
I did not see where that was.
I was like, where's this going? But yeah,
I mean, like, I just mean like sort of in the age of loneliness and isolation. I think that that's not a problem that you have.
It is in different ways.
In different ways.
But there is I think especially with online stuff, as much as social media is evil, like when I was growing up, I was on Twitter meeting little gays and I was loving it because I didn't know anyone in school that was gay and it was great.
I think that's where those spaces where we fix the loneliness come from, is because we're so lonely in the straight place where we're like the only gay in the school who is like, we get pushed to London, to these places, to Soho, to these gay bars, and then that's where we find our people. But to fix...
Sorry, I was just trying to say something helpful.
No, that was
I'm
really
going to say
nice.
something even more helpful. To fix the male loneliness epidemic, I will see you boys in the men's toilets very soon.
Coming soon to the men's toilet.
Oh my God! I don't know why I did that. So it's been a very long day of boring.
She's been on the BBC.
I've been on the beep.
Thank you for being here, and see you all in the Reddit.